So let's do a quick review of how to create a run chart in Excel. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a space in the spreadsheet here in cell 1 and B1 where we can compute our median a little bit later on once we have data. So I'm just going to create a cell that's labeled median, and over here in cell B1 we'll compute a median later. So that's our first step. We're getting things set up. Second step here in getting things set up is to create some columns for some dates and data. So in column A I'll create a date column. Column B will be percent or percentages, and then column C is going to be our median column. Okay, great. Now once we have everything set up, we can go ahead and start adding some initial data. You can put some dates over here in the date column and some sample percentages. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a few dates here, and you would typically put these in by hand. I'm going to go ahead and quickly just fill those in, so I have a few here. Okay. So let's suppose for a second, let me just change this one real quick here, makes more sense. So let's go ahead and put some percentages in. You can go ahead and enter in the percentages if you have them, like 0.45 let's say, or 0.52. If you have a numerator and denominator like I talk about over here on the slide, you could just say, well, the percentage is equal to 20 over 42, let's say. And that'll compute that percentage for you. And then you can do that for as many data points as you have. So 22 over, let's say 37, that's a little higher, and let's say we go with 0.64 for the last one. So let's get some sample data in so we can begin to build the median. And that's actually our next step. Let's compute the initial median for this data that we have. Maybe this is our baseline data. So next to the cell here where we create a little space for it, in this case it's B1, we're going to go ahead and use the median command, equals median. Open a parenthesis, and then we're going to tell it what cells that we want to compute. So you can do that a couple of ways. The easiest way is typically to click and drag across the data cells that you want and then close that parenthesis. And notice here this is supposed to be a colon as opposed to a column, which I have here on the slide. I just noticed that. But we go ahead and click enter, and our median is 0.52. And then once we get that median computed, we're going to want to copy that median value here into this column that we created called the median. So I'm going to go here into this first row where a median should be inserted, and I'm going to say this is equal to this cell B1, but I'm going to make sure I put dollar signs in front of the B and in front of the 1 to make this an absolute reference. The reason for that is because I can then take this little handle right here, as I described over on the PowerPoint slide, and I can drag that down with my mouse so that it copies that formula down, and the median value gets copied all the way down that column. So now we're in a really good position because now we have enough data where we can actually start graphing things. And so we'll start by graphing the percentages in column B. So what we're going to do is first select the data that we want to graph, which is going to be these data right here. And then from the chart tab, which is already selected here, I'm going to make sure I go and look for, I may have to scroll by the way, I'm going to look for the option that gives us a marked line, which you can see my pointer is on top of right now. I'm going to select that, and that's basically your basic run chart right there. We still want to add a little bit more information to this, but that's basically the simplest run chart you can create. However, we want to add a little more information to this. For example, it's always very useful to have the median line also there. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some data to this chart. The way we do this is, as is described here in the slide, is we're going to find an empty area on the chart. We're going to right click and we're going to choose select data. And that's going to allow us to select more data to add to the chart. And in Windows, the idea is going to be basically the same. The interface might look a little bit different, but the idea here is we want to add a new series of data, and you're going to look for an add command to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new series. Right now it's called series 2, and let me just pull this out of the way so we can see what's happening with the graph. And you can see the y values here need to be specified, so I'm just going to empty out what's there, and I am going to use my mouse to drag down this column where the median values are, because that's actually the new series of data that I want to add. So let me go ahead and pull that down. You can see here I have told it that I want cells C3 through C7, and that corresponds to this right over here, which I'm pointing to now. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then there's our median line in bright orange. May not be as pretty as we want it to be eventually, but at least the information is there for us. And so at this point now you've got the basics set up. You can actually start to add more data to this graph if you need to. So let me just show you what you would do here. You could add some more dates here. So let's say I had a few more dates. I'm going to go ahead and just do those very quickly for the sake of getting through this. You're going to enter the dates, and then maybe you're going to add some more percentages. So 0.6 here, 0.7, 0.65, let's say 0.8. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and add some new data. And then we're going to make sure that we copy down this median information all the way to the bottom of our last row. So I'll do the same thing I did before. I'll select this cell here, and I'll drag that little handle down so it copies the formula for median down there. Okay, so the one thing we have to be aware of now is that when you click on this graph, you can see that not all the data are being displayed in this graph. So in order to make sure that happens, you just grab one of these little handles in the lower corner and pull it down to the bottom row, and that's going to then add more data to our graph. And let me pull that over here. There we go. So now you can see a well-formed run chart. You can start to see what's happening with the data relative to the median line. And if you want to go ahead and put the dates on that horizontal axis, which is a really good idea, simply take the set of data that is being graphed that you can see here, grab that handle, and then just pull it over to the left so it includes the dates. And Excel is going to be smart enough to say, oh, those are the dates you want here on the horizontal axis. And so we're pretty much ready to go. And so every time you want to create or add new data, that's the process you'll go through. Add the date, the percentages, copy down that median using that handle, and then go over to the graph and make sure that the data that you want display is actually selected. So that's a quick review of how to create a run chart in Excel.